I'm called Claude Byiringiro. I am from Rwanda. Rwanda is a small country, very small indeed, in the central part of Africa, and I will discuss it a bit later. I am usually an orthopedic surgeon, and I work as a senior lecturer at the University of Rwanda, where I teach anatomy and surgery. And I am based at the University Teaching Hospital of Kigali, where I do my daily practice. I have been so much honored to be invited here, especially at the Salesian University of Administration and Law, and I'm impressed. I didn't expect to meet such an audience. So I am really humbled and honored to be with you this evening. Thank you very much, Eric. Thank you very much, the University Administration, for inviting me here. So I'm not good in English. I'm sorry for that. This is my third language. If you don't understand my language, please don't hesitate to stop me to clarify things that I may badly pronounce. Thank you very much. I was asked to talk about migration and humanitarian crisis in Africa, focusing on the Rwandan experience. I wish to start by a small disclaimer that these opinions are totally mine, don't reflect anybody else's views or endorsement. Second disclaimer that I want to do before I start is because I will share with you the story of my country, some of which is very scary. I may need to project some images that may be not good to see if you can't sustain. If you may not want to see some images, please beware. Don't see them because some may be unpleasant, unfortunately. As just an introduction, migration and humanitarian crises are increasingly becoming important in the world today. And the number of people who are becoming displaced due to war, conflict, human rights violation has significantly increased in the recent years. And the statistics from the UNHCR are really impressive, because at this particular moment, 68.5 million of people have been forced to displace or to migrate. 40 million among them are internally displaced into regions, while 25.4 million are refugees, and other 3.1 million are just asylum seeking in many countries, mostly developed countries. So this crisis has started to be very popular in recent years because so many migrants entered Europe, and they entered Europe via Mediterranean Sea. And that was very risky. The problem because the crisis came as an evidence to everybody that is a real problem. But notice please that this is a very small part of the problem that was emerging. It is comparable to an iceberg where you just see only a very small part of it, while the biggest part is hidden under the water. These people from Africa, they take daily risk of losing their own lives to travel from Africa, some are coming from the Middle East, to come to this world, to the Europe, at all total risks that they can incur to lose their lives. If somebody can take the decision to lose his life, it means this is the best option only remaining in front of him. And possibly, people need to think more critically about this if they want to remain safe. Because, depending on the gravity of the situation that is prevailing in some particular regions, you don't have many choices. You remain there, you die. So the only choice in front of you is to take that big risk, to go at least to see if you can save your skin. As you can see, the majority of the populations that are migrant have migrated, but they remain in their regions as internally displaced people. You may see in the green color on this projection that people are remaining either in the Americas, the Latin America, or in Africa, in sub-Saharan Africa, or maybe they are in the Middle East. But they are remaining in their own places. But internally, they have left their homes to go in camps. A small part of them take that risk to travel to Western countries. I don't know how many come here, but in the Western countries, there are so many. I come from an area that is called Sub-Saharan Africa. Sub-Saharan Africa, of course, is known for the poverty and all the problems linked to the poverty. What is interesting about this region has been a theater of so many crises, migration crises. It is estimated that it contains 30% of the problem. But more interestingly is that many people have stayed in their regions where there are crises as internally displaced people. But people think that the migration to Europe of these people from sub-Saharan Africa was not much caused by wars or other conflicts, but many people came to see some opportunities that they couldn't see at home. Maybe they want to attend a very good school, they want to have a good job, so they may come to Europe for that reason. But recent crisis started mostly by the crisis in Libya. Many people think that the barrier that was in Libya, which was preventing those people to migrate into these countries, especially the Western countries, Western Europe countries, then by the problems and the crisis in Libya, this went away, and then people are coming in hundreds of thousands, losing their lives in Mediterranean Sea. Now, I'm not talking widely on Africa, that is the problem as it looks today, but I'm going to focus to my country, Rwanda. So, as you may see, Rwanda is a very small country. You can't see on this map, you can't even see it. It is somewhere here, very small, like a dot, with an area of 26,300 something kilometers square kilometers. So tiny. But it is so much populated in this very small landlocked country. We have almost 12 million of people. more than 350 per kilometer square. So it's a very highly populated country. I think these are colors of our flag. Then, what is our experience with these problems? We experienced several waves of displacement in my country. And the most significant happened after genocide against Tutsi. I don't know if you all have heard about the genocide against Tutsi, but you can't understand the history of my country if you don't have any information about it. At the beginning, Rwanda was a very strong kingdom, and it was very respected in the region. It used to have three social classes. One was Tutsi, others were Hutu, others were Twa. Rwanda, at the beginning of colonization was occupied by Germans. And after the end of the First World War, then Germans were replaced by Belgians after their defeat. So, then, when Belgians came, they saw that strong country, they couldn't impose all their policies like they wished. To be able to succeed, to rule the country, they had to use another strange system which we now call divide and rule. So, divide and rule, they succeed to implement it by transforming the three social groups into ethnic groups. Normally, some were there just living with their cows. Those were called Tutsi. Others were living because of land works, Hutu. Others were just living for other small businesses. They limited access to schools. The Belgians have started putting in place some schools. Then, to encourage those divisions, they limited access to schools to children from Hutu groups. Then they encouraged only Tutsi people to attend schools. And those Tutsi people, they only remained in the administration. They chased out of the administration all the other groups. So now the Tutsi were the only people to implement the colonialists' opinions and policies, attracting to them hate, so much hate from the other groups because they were coming, forcing them to do things they didn't like to do. And this became really successful in dividing the Rwandan society. So towards the 1950s, the Africans started to claim for independence. So Rwandans who were educated were those Tutsis because others refused to attend schools. So Tutsis then joined the other African peers to claim independence. So Belgians, when they saw that Tutsis were raising voices, claiming for independence, they encouraged Hutus now to raise against Tutsi, building on the previous divisionisms they have built in the country. So then they coordinated a Hutu uprising movement that was called the revolution. And during that revolution, so many Tutsi people were killed. That was towards 1959. Many Tutsi were killed, and others were forced out of the country. That was the first movement out of the country. So, then, afterwards, Belgians were forced by the United Nations to hand over independence to Rwanda, and this was done in 62 July. Then, by handing over independence to Rwanda, you know, the Tutsis have been killed and others forced out of the country. They handed over power and independence to people who were really extremely divisioning the group and who were extremists. And those extremists really openly preached hate against Tutsi and continue with serial killings. They killed people in 1963, in 1967, and in 1973. All these people were continuing to go out of the country because of this kind of hate and persecutions. Like in 1973, so many people were chased out of the schools, were expelled out of schools, and from the public services, if you were Tutsi, you were excluded. So again, people were forced out. In 1973, at the same year, the first president was destituted by a coup by another president who continued into this line. And this continued until the years 1990s. At this time, then, the people who had fled out of the country had started to organize and to form and constitute an army because of being refused their right to citizenship. They have been there almost 40 years. 30 years, from 1960 to 1990s. So now, in 1990, the Rwandese Patriotic Front, which is RPF, is now the ruling party in the country, had formed in response to this discrimination and initiated the battle in October 1990. As it started the battle then, the regime which was in place responded by organizing now mass killing. Of the Tutsi who had remained in the country, they were accused that they are supporting RPF. And the regime in place had responded by organizing really large-scale killings to them. These are the militias who are pro that regime, and here they were in training. They were training to exterminate the Tutsi people. You can see there is a white man. Beside them, these were the French army who were training those extremist Hutu. So you see they are in exercises of all kinds. Beside them, there is a trainer who was training them. And these are still them in exercises. And here they were celebrating, manifesting, and could you see that there are women and kids in this? So this ideology had been such terrible that even women, even children were really engaged into this ideology of hate. Then, in April 1994, genocide started. It started after the president was killed in a crash that we believe was caused by extremist Hutu, because he was starting to negotiate with RPF, and he was almost accepting to implement Arusha peace agreement, and they didn't like him to implement those agreements. So he was killed in an airplane crash, and afterwards genocide was initiated. So this was not the real reason, because they have been training and planning this for a long time. So the image that can come may be shocking, so please don't see if you don't like. So this, for those who are able to see, is the horror that was taking place in April, and afterwards people were being killed like this. Then all this left us with so many problems, so many challenges. It was stopped in July by RPF. The UN was there and has pronounced never again, never intervened. Rather, the peacekeepers which were in the country were taken away and were reduced to minimum. Okay? The French people, who is a very powerful country, were rather helping the Hutu regime to perpetrate genocide. This is a big issue. So, after this, all infrastructures were completely destroyed. All institutions collapsed. Health system, judicial system, education, everything was on ground. The defeated army, which were ex-Force Armée Rwandaise, or ex-FAR, this was the previous army, was defeated, and the militia, you saw the images of the militia which committed genocide, all have fled the country and had gone to DRC, which at that time were supporting them as well. And it was on another western border of the country. So they had gone there and they started regrouping, rearming, retraining at that border, and it becomes a huge refugee crisis because almost half of the Rwandan population was there. In genocide, they were able to kill more than 1 million. In 3 months, only 1 million of people had been killed in the way you have seen. Could you imagine how many people you need to kill 1 million of people in 3 months? So all of those who had been involved in the killings had fled the country to go to Congo, and they were reorganizing and rearming to come back to re-exterminate again other they have not been able to exterminate. This is how it looks when they left the country. This, you can't see how many people were going out of the country, and this has been a so huge crisis to Rwanda. There was even 38 internally displaced people camps in the country who had not been able to go to Congo, with 1.5 million people. And 2.5 million, 2.5 million new refugees entered Congo. I remind that there have been other Tutsi people who had been forced much earlier into the neighboring countries. After genocide, then 2.5 other millions joined them in Congo. And they started again causing disturbances into the region. So this is how it looks. And the crisis was such big that kids and women were much suffering, especially kids in those camps. And these were taken as like an armor. So whoever would like to attack them, they bring kids at the front, so that you can't even attack those people, because they are taking kids like this at the front line. So if you attack them, then you are attacking the children. So that was a big problem. We had an issue of justice. All the judicial system had been collapsed. Either judges have been killed, or others have fled the country in the movement you have seen. And imagine that we had so many millions of people who need to be proceeded because of the killings they have been committing. Okay? Then, we needed really to have other ideas about what to do, because or what we could imagine couldn't work at that time. There have been such much hate that the cohesion into the society was zero. Now everybody hates everybody. So the unity was really very difficult, and as I said, at that time you had so much difficult diplomatic relations, because we felt that the international community abandoned us. And other countries had supported the genocide perpetrators. So we didn't have anybody to trust, if I could say. This is what it looks on the other border in Congo. You see the soldiers above the bus, the population. And after genocide, those who survived looked like this. So many people with so much disability, with so much wounds. Bodies of those killed were everywhere. We needed to organize more burials, more appropriate burials. Some were buried into commemoration, into memorial sites. These are those conserved in memorial sites that looking like this, but this was done much after. And this is an area where so many people had been buried in common, these were in Nyanza. It's a village called Nyanza, where people had been fled towards the peacekeepers, Belgian peacekeepers. So they abandoned them to murderers, and they were murdered. You can't imagine these crosses that are above, indicating how many people were abandoned to themselves or to people who had to kill them. We were in the middle of a nightmare where the country needed to have other approaches to survive. So what was done? RPF had gained the battle and had to do it. Was the only most responsible person to take responsibility of the situation. They, first of all, established a government of unity. Government of unity, which was broad-based and inclusive of all. They had to combine so many hints to be able to come out of this puzzle. They had to combine political, diplomatic, and military actions to respond to the crisis. Politically, They used to mobilize the Rwandan people for their own security. They had to take a very hard decision to reintegrate the defeated army. Otherwise, it would have remained on the other border, causing more disturbances. So, this was a hard decision to reintegrate the defeated army and to repatriate the refugees. So, this crisis they had to deal with, they needed to have more innovative ways to approach these people who committed genocide, most of them, but who have taken really with them their kids who were innocent, their wives, most of the time, not all the time, were innocent. So how to really go approach them to come back to the country? You may not imagine that this is possible. Even us, we couldn't imagine that this could be possible. But the government had to take the decision to do so. So they sent high-level delegations, members of the government, to meet the refugees in their camps. Mostly in IDP, internally displaced camps, and outside the country. So those high-level government members went to meet the refugees to request them to voluntarily repatriate. It was a hard decision. The government introduced other programs they called Come and See and Go and Tell. So they invited people to see the progress that was being achieved, the security that was in the country, so they could come in Rwanda and then go back into their camps to tell other people, to encourage them to come into the country. If people accepted to come, they benefited of immediate restitution of refugees' properties, and the government guaranteed the inalienable right to all Rwandans to live in Rwanda irrespective of their crimes, if any. Sometimes interventions were needed to liberate them from the hostage of the criminals that kept them hostage in their areas. They also needed some diplomatic. So that was about sensitizing the international community to disarm the defeated army, but it didn't work so much. Sometimes they needed to do it a military way because that was a survival issue. If they didn't intervene in Congo, then we would be killed again. So there was a decision to intervene in Zaire. This is the current Democratic Republic of Congo, to disarm the genocide of ex-FAR and militias. Most challenging issue, rebuilding the judicial system. All the institutions, as I say, had collapsed. They need to train more personnel, but they had millions of people to try. This couldn't be possible. People used to calculate, say, you may request more hundreds of years to be able to judge all the people who had to go to court. And impunity was not an option to take because this is what led the country where it was at that right time. So, what to do? There have been so much discussions and many retreats of high-level people, including all people who could give their opinions, and they agreed to a solution of legal reforms. And among those legal reforms, they adopted new approaches to justice. they saw the only way to go about it, especially because the cohesion into the society was so bad, they needed really a very special solution, and they could just buy from the culture. Because in the family, if somebody did something wrong, or in the society, local society, if somebody did something wrong, we could sit here as 10 or 20, and the person asks for forgiveness, and he is pardoned, and he is allowed to be reintegrated again into the society. So this is what people accept to take into Gacaca. That was called Gacaca in ancient Rwanda. And then we borrowed from that to have the new judicial system, which is not documented in your classical books of law like you have studied. But I can tell you, it worked so perfect. And we were very happy with how it performed. There are another system which was called Abunzi. Abunzi, again, doesn't have anything to say with the Gacaca, but with other problems. Like if I have any problem with you, which is nothing with the genocide. They didn't concern genocide, but other problems. So they need to use so many approaches. International justice, because people have fled the country. Those who have enough money are now in Europe. Maybe they are in this country. I don't know. We had to go for international justice. We have to go classical justice and use Gacaca to make sure that justice is made. This is how a Gacaca court looked like. You see these people who are wearing some flags. Those are judges. They have been trained, give a short training on how to use to conduct their proceedings, and they did it very perfectly, and they were empowered to do so. Nobody could disobey them, so they could investigate and do all necessary and give a verdict. Some people were convicted with those courts, and they really tried so many people. I couldn't see the figures, but they did a good job. The country had to promote the unity and reconciliation. Another thing that people may not imagine could happen. So they abolished the ID cards. If I had an ID card, it was written that I am Tutsi, I'm Hutu, I am Etwa, so that everybody knows with my identity. If I am giving it to you, you know exactly who I am. If you want to kill me quickly. So that was abolished. They gave equal rights and opportunity to all Rwandans, and the National Human Rights Commission was created, and above it, the Unity and Reconciliation Commission also was created. Other things was fostering good governance. That's a very important topic, because without it, we know everything goes to the wrong direction. So they fostered good governance by establishing elected executive committee, which are decentralized, and councils that are answerable to the population, and they made them inclusive. That's where women appear. Women and youth. Actually, the Rwandan population, if you ignore the women and you ignore the young people, then there is nobody remaining. So many people have died, So now you have a totally young population. And during genocide, who was targeted? Men were targeted before any other person. So this is a landlocked country. I said, we don't have gold mine, we don't have uranium, we don't have coal mine like you have here. We don't have nothing under our soil. We have only people, because that is only our thing that we have. So our economy and our everything has to be based on the population. That because this is the only thing we have. So the government decided to empower women, to empower the youth, and those living with disabilities, because we had many after genocide. We couldn't forget them as well. So they promoted dialogue and consensus as modes of governance, transparency and accountability, and people were engaged in a referendum which used to review the constitution. And about the socio-economic, so many programs were documented as strategies to overcome poverty. And because I am taking much of your time, I will not stay much on this. But maybe I will stay a few minutes on this, about the international relations. There was an establishment of a foreign policy, because maybe this is interesting to most of you, and because maybe people are looking at how they can partner with some countries. Learning from our history, we thought, and the government thought at that time, I wasn't part of it, but they thought that what could be good establishing our policies is building relations based on mutual respect. Relations based on mutual respect and benefit, sovereignty, and equality of nations. So, if people wished to disturb us, we say, okay, no relations. And sometimes you had good very bad relationship with other countries if they wanted to engage in a wrong direction opposed to this policy. Another important thing, prevention of genocide. So there were so many people involved in that genocide. We couldn't be safe if we didn't think about prevention of genocide and its ideology, because it has been there for many years. So we still think we need so many years again to eradicate the ideology of genocide. So we have a National Commission for the Fight Against Genocide since 2007, and this is an independent public institution which is having financial autonomy. We keep memorial sites. They are like museums now. And these are places where young people, now it's 25 years later, young people don't know what happened. So they need to go somewhere they can learn what happened to the country, so that they can prevent it to happen again. So we have those memorial sites. The major one is in Kigali. For those who will come to Rwanda, please visit it to see more. And we have our commemoration period. We have 1 week from the 7th April to the 13th April. This is an official government mourning period for commemoration of genocide against Tutsi. Last time, the boss of the European Commission, Jean-Claude Juncker, was with Rwandans, because me, I was here, launching the commemoration. So, Now, what did we achieve from all of these strategies? 95% refugees have returned home. You may say this is a miracle. So many millions had fled out of the country, and 95% of them have returned home. And the UNHCR has invoked the cession clause. So now people who are out of Rwanda are not considered refugees because they know there is no longer any problem that could retain them outside the country. Rwanda is very secure and safe in our region. Unity and reconciliation is slowly shaping. There is a sustained growth, economic growth, and we have a respected army and police. Now we participate so many peacekeepers in the UN and African Union force. And that is becoming now a safe haven for people now fleeing conflicts in their region. We have so many. Now I think we are having in the country like 158,000 of refugees. I could talk more and more about this, but I think I shouldn't take much of your time. I want to close by here, thanking you so much for listening to me. I feel really honored. We think that we have so many things to share with the world, especially with the regions where are any conflict. Maybe they can learn something from us. I don't know if I said anything that is relevant to you, but I hope so. And I hope sharing our experience can be helpful to somebody. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. It was really great lecture. Can you imagine that our guest, as a medicine doctor, yes, he has spoken about refugee law, about immigration, about political situation, about history, about criminal penal law, about justice system. Can we say something about medicine and give a lecture? So thanks a lot. I can confess that I was not aware the transformation of Rwanda. So from refugee-producing country to refugee-receiving country. It is really the great achievement, and Rwanda as a safe country, well, it is really big success of all the nation and the policy. But I think that we can start discussion now. I hope that you have some questions, a lot of questions, but don't forget that our guest was at work at the hospital today, so
just 2 hours then.
just okay.
Okay.
So my proposal is that this microphone will go to the audience, and you can take this one, okay? That's great. So please, the floor is yours. Let's enjoy the presence of our guest.
I would like to ask, according to your experience, both as a doctor and the citizen of Rwanda in general, how for you the perfect, the good humanitarian worker should be? what skills or abilities the good humanitarian worker should have to provide humanitarian aid in a country touched by the disaster or armed conflict. Thank you.
So maybe you can sit, yes, maybe more convenient. Okay, so together, what do you prefer? To combine all the questions or just question answer? What is more
I don't know how many are the questions. So maybe should we take like 5?
Okay, just 5 questions, answers. Okay, so another question? Yeah.
I have one question. What were the motivations of the French to train the Hutu extremists?
Okay, next one. Just we are collecting 5.
I have one question concerning the judicial system in Rwanda. Now, are you aware if there are any proceedings, trials against genocide criminals before legal system and also before gacaca courts, which is very interesting. You mentioned it perfectly, but it's a phenomenon of judicial system. Thank you.
Another one?
Thank you. So I have a question, more from the medical side. Does Rwanda need medical help and medical aid, humanitarian help like that? And what would be the main thing that we should specify in?
No? Okay. Somebody else in this round? So maybe 4. Okay, so just.
Okay, thank you so much. There's a person who asked about the skills appropriate for humanitarians. It's good that humanitarians should be aware of the history, specific history of all the areas they want to support. It's very important because going in the right context with the right needs may be important to have an efficient support or help to people. So knowing the context, being respectful, I think really this is a big question, but I think the understanding the real needs that people want to have fixed is important. There is a question about the motivations of the French government. I would say I don't know really. However, I suspect something. We used to be a francophone speaking country. French people, they felt aggressed when the RPF coming from Uganda, an English-speaking country, had attacked the francophone country. So they still think they have interest in people who are speaking French, and they had to protect this. I guess that was their motivation because we can't see any other. So, but above all, the former French President Mitterrand, François Mitterrand, was a friend of our former President Byiringiro. So their close relationship maybe have added to the French-speaking condition that he wanted to protect, and they provided much of support to the former army, and this ended up by training them and the militia which were related to them. I don't say that I know all the motivations that the government really had. About the question on gacaca, yes, there have been some proceedings before Gacaca. And Gacaca was closed before. We still have people we never knew they were involved. Maybe they are still in other countries who are repatriating them forcibly or not forcibly, but some country may identify a suspect and extradite to Rwanda. So those ones still are being proceeded in the normal classical judicial way. So it continues. Yeah. About the need of medical humanitarian help, yes, we do might need that much. Health system, as other systems in the country, suffered a lot from genocide. People were killed, others fled the country. So we still need human resources. We are still lacking some skills. And that is among the reasons why I am here. Because I can't have all the skills at the same time. So I am learning from my colleagues at Hoju.
Perfect.
So I need to come to learn from their skills. We know there are still other skills we still need to have where we have a serious gap. So that's one. Another thing is we are growing, but we have not been at all levels. We still need some infrastructures, we still need some equipment we don't have. So people who feel they can contribute to that is important, but it's variable according to the special area, special sector you are visiting, because the needs are very variable. So I would not say much on the specific need, but at least we need some special skills, we need some special equipment, we need some infrastructures to be able to perform well. So we still have much to do, have not done, or we still, after only 25 years, it's still very early. We are progressing well, but we still have lots to do. Thank you very much. I don't know if I have answered the questions. If there are some pending, or that ones I have not well clarified, I can
We
clarify.
have more questions, don't worry.
I have a question connected with economic status of Rwanda. After the refugees crisis, how the market look like, and then how look like now? Okay.
Market.
Yeah, the market, the economic status of Rwanda. It's a kind of, I think, rising market right now.
If I may, I have a question about general opinion or attitude of Rwandan people of International Criminal Court for Rwanda, which was established in 1994 by Security Council. What the average citizen of Rwanda thinks about this tribunal? Because we can say many things in Europe about it, but I'm interested what the really citizens think about it. Thanks.
The last chance.
Actually, I get a very similar question about your opinion, the opinion of Rwanda people, of United Nations and international help after the genocide.
I didn't get it well. Can you come back again?
Yeah, I want to ask about the opinion of Rwanda's people about the role of United Nations help and the international help after the genocide.
Ktoś jeszcze z tej strony? A z tamtej?
So my next question, if I can ask, I'm interested, what is your opinion about humanitarian help from European and generally from Western countries? Do you think that it really works in Africa, that we provide water, food to refugee camps and the money, and do you think that it is distributed in a good way, that it really goes to the people that really need this, or that it works in another way? Thank you.
Any questions? No? Okay, so maybe next round, okay? And it will be the last round, so be prepared. Me? Me. It's okay, so can you? This?
Okay. So about the business and market in Rwanda, I would confess that I'm not really a specialist of that, but what I know, Rwanda is the second country in Africa which makes easier the business. So if you want to invest money, you are the most welcome. In 6 hours you start your business. So it is recognized of making easy business and facilitating people who want to invest money in the country. We are calling for everybody to bring money, so feel free to come, very easy. I think it is the second in Africa and 15 worldwide. So, very good. So please come. Somebody asked about my opinion, my attitude about the International Criminal Court for Rwanda. So, was there, it was inefficient. It has not even tried a hundred of people. You know how much budget it consumes. It has lot of budget. It didn't use it to try enough people among those whom it should have tried, and it grows leaving behind so much work again which is not done. It worked in an inefficient way. Sometimes released those who planned and committed genocide. So for us, really, it didn't help much as it should have helped. That's a personal opinion, but it didn't help a lot. So the role of the United Nations help in the international community, first of all, they didn't help us during genocide. That's have to come out. That's where what we know. It never helped during genocide. While it is well not said that never again after 1945, the UN didn't help, the international community didn't help. So only Rwandans took responsibility to stop the genocide. My attitude is again, there is a gap in what we say and what we do. Because never again is only verbal, doesn't reflect into actions. I think there should be done something different. If you say never again, even accepting that genocide is a problem. So he said people are dying because they are born like that. Or people don't want to accept that this is what is happening. And it will take months and years before people recognize and accept that a group of people is being exterminated is a critical issue and is a big weakness into the UN systems and international community. And you have an impression that when there are no direct interests in one particular region, people will not intervene at all. They come after things have finished. Yes, after genocide is perpetrated and people are killed, you will see so many people coming. You don't know, they are coming for love, they are coming for something else. It's funny. When people needed you were absent. When you are no longer needed, you are there. So it's a problem. It's a dilemma. We don't know if we need. We don't know if we don't need really the support because it's like that. You may see even the presence of the UN and all those international community in countries where there are problems. Does it really reflect efficiency in those areas? I doubt. So you see them in Congo, UN is there for last more than 20 years. I don't know if it has made any significant progress since it is there. In Central African Republic, it's there for now how many years? I don't know. But I have a feeling that the work is being done there is not efficient at all. So there should be changes, in my opinion, in the approach people have about conflict and how much they support and how they approach the support. So that's just my humble opinion. I'm not an expert in the field, so please bear with me. About the humanitarian aids and help, is it going to the right people? In my country, I say yes, we get some, and in majority of the situation, it goes to the right people, and that's what helped us to move. Without it, we would not have moved from anywhere. So we needed it badly. We got it, and we used it in the right way, and it helped the country to grow. So corruption is a significant issue to tackle. If the humanitarian aids and help go into the pocket of individual people, then this is not well. But sometimes, if it is well used, where there are systems to ensure that it goes to the right people, to what it was designed for, then it is very important that because people need help. I think we still need to get some help from people who are advanced compared to us. So, transparency and corruption, fighting of corruption, having systems that can fight corruption is important for the humanitarian aid to come. Sometimes you may have a goodwill to help, but it goes in the bad hands. Then it doesn't become helpful. It's important that you think about the people you go to help. If you are willing to help, go and sit with them, see what their real needs, but also see if there is a possibility that your help can be efficient. That's what I think. Thank you very much.
Can we start another round? The last one.
Yes.
So the last round of questions.
Well, first of all, I would like to really thank you for your lecture, because I hope it showed us again how we are lucky living here in Europe without these problems you have described. And secondly, I'm absolutely impressed by a number of refugees that were taken by Rwanda. We had problem with admitting very small number of refugees. That's why I'm really impressed. But I have a different question. You have said that reconciliation and reunition of nation is still going on, and I would like to ask if there are in the schools or in the government policy there are some special programs how to create this unity, how to make it happen again. Again. Thank you.
Sorry, I have a question as well. Like, it is very similar to what she asked, but I would like to ask you about the special programs for the families of victims. Are there any special programs that help them to integrate and how do they live right now?
Hello. So I have a question about how it affects common people right now. Is still hate between Tutsi and Hutu right now? Are there still crimes or offenses between them? Thank you.
The golden, and I want to ask the role of NGOs, because I was in the European Youth Parliament and we were talking about the role of NGOs in our crisis of refugees. And what is your opinion about this? Is it better to help in the country where these bad things happen, or in the refugees camps in the other countries, like, for example, it was in our case Greece and other Italian and Spanish camps? Thank you.
The last chance?
I think that I don't need a microphone. I have a question about the education system. How it's now organized. You mentioned that there is no more ID which stands to which part you belong or your roots belong. But how you educate the young and how the education system is right now revealed. Where it is.
The last one?
Thank you.
Discussion is finished. I will give up with my questions, so I will ask later. Okay. So thanks a lot, and please answer.
Yes. How to approach the unity and reconciliation is the biggest puzzle we have to solve. But there have been genocide here in Europe, but people don't live closer. It's different from what we live back home, because I live here. The person who have killed my family lives next to me. I'm not obliged to love him, to like him, but I can't offend him. By law, I'm not authorized to revenge. I'm not authorized to to offend him in any way. He also is not allowed to do so for me. But however, sometimes you may see it as an offense. Just some people are that much involved in the ideology that, like in this period of commemoration, you may see coming and killing my cow, just to show that he still has hate in him. But these are few people. In the majority of situations, we don't see those things. May come in the commemoration periods, you see. I think it is even still here. There are still people who are propagating again negationism against the shore, revisionism, negationism. There are still those people. We still have to fight the ideology, but first of all, policy is that we protect people. All the people are protected. Revenge is not allowed. Offending anybody in any way is discouraged in all ways. So that's a thing. Hate, it is too early. People who have been preaching hate for the last 40 years, you can't say that in 25 years they have forgotten everything. So we still think there might be some hate, especially in older people. We see that children, young people don't care about those problems, but we adults and the older people, some of us are having these problems still. So this is something we say it is progressively taking place, it's progressively shaping. There is a commission in charge of the unity and reconciliation. I will be honest, I don't know much of all the programs they have, but they are there for that. They have to investigate. Sometimes they give us, they conduct surveys to see if those kind of hate are still existing, if the ideology, genocide ideology is still going on. But they have also other programs. For example, we have a program called Umunyarwanda. Umunyarwanda means I am Rwanda. I'm not Hutu, I'm not Tutsi, I'm not Twa, I am Rwanda. So, especially for young people, we educate them, telling you, keep your identity as a Rwandan, not as a Tutsi, not as a Hutu, not as a Twa, so that they feel together rather than feeling divisioned by any other thing. So special programs for victims, they are there. We have a survivor support fund, which is called FARSH. So FARSH is established to take care of problems specific to survivors of genocide. After genocide, among the problems we had so many orphans. Those orphans were helped to attend schools. They helped with school fees, with all the needs, so they were catered for. I think now the last ones are just finishing universities. That was very successful. We had its education program for the victims of genocide. It is also supporting vulnerable people like older people. Sometimes all the children have been killed, and there's an old man now, an old mom or an old man now. They are 80s. In 80s, they are alone, so they keep supporting them, supporting with money to survive. giving them, reconstructing the houses. Actually, this was a short time, but I couldn't say what was being done. They killed people, they destroyed all the houses. All the houses of Tutsi were completely destroyed. So they rebuilt some houses for shelters for survivors who were in need, not for all. And that's why education, supporting with houses, it also helps for medical support. For the medical needs, it keeps also supporting for health needs. So that is an important thing that has also helped to be survivors to be reintegrated into the community. So about the NGOs have, in my opinion, a very big importance in the rebuilding of countries or regions where conflicts are, and in post-conflict period. They are very important. However, there are some which have ill intentions. Not all of them are good. Some are coming with their own hidden agenda, and we have seen some of those things. But really, it's because one, in Kinyarwanda we say that if one girl is committing an offense, then all girls are bad. But not all of them. So NGOs are good, are helpful in majority of situations, except those which are having ill intentions. We can't know who are those ones. You only know because of their actions. But in the majority of the circumstances, they are good, well-intentioned, and welcome in zones where they are needed. I think they are good, except in those circumstances only. The education system in Rwanda is that we encourage everybody to attend school. Now, we have, in Rwanda there is a system where we have 12 years basic education. Everybody has right to access a 12 years basic education, and including girls, because in the past they were not attending schools as many as they are doing now. It's obligatory to everybody to attend, for every child to attend at least the 12 basic years education. University is not an obligation, but basic is an obligation. Because we only have people, we have to invest in our people. That's this, I think, the opinion of the government. The government wants to invest much in its population, because it's only we have to pass with our population. No other resources in our soil, nothing. So that's important that everybody is educated. I guess I have answered what I could answer. Forgive me, I'm not a specialist in this topic. But I'm just sharing experience and opinions. And I hope it can help in any way. And that is where I could stop, I think. Thank you, Professor, again for helping me through this. And thank you for inviting me here. I am very grateful.